Yes, good morning and welcome. You're still watching Citizen TV. This is Daybreak and it's time to take a look at the headlines and the issues behind those headlines. Of course, the biggest story has to do with the murder of Sharon Otieno. It's still making top news. It's on the front pages as well. The top strip of the Standard, Obado brings out family denies role in Sharon murder. That's the top strip of the Standard. On the Daily Nation this morning, Obado owns up to Sharon affair. And this story continues to grip the attention of Kenyans, and this is the biggest talking point. The other big talking point has been captured on the Standard, and this has to do with Kenya's debt, especially Chinese debt, how China is feeding off poor Africa. And well, surprise, surprise, we are not the worst. Angola owes China 4.28 trillion shillings. Kenya, we're number 3 after Ethiopia, 980 billion shillings, but we could very easily get to number 2. Well, something to look forward to. Yeah, if at all we could call it that. Because yes, President Uhuru Kenyatta was in China just last week, and if at all he gets any of his requests granted, that could very easily take this amount to over 1 trillion Kenya shillings. Those are just some of the big headlines. Interestingly, and I'd mentioned this earlier, Kamlesh Patni makes a return to the news. His face is captured on the front page of the Daily Nation. Many people do not know who Kamlesh Patni is. Probably many of the younger generation do not know who Kamlesh Patni is from the days of Goldenberg. Let me introduce my panelists this morning. Rosa, Buyu, woman representative, Kisumu County. Good morning. Karibu sana.
Good morning.
And Kiambu Wamatangi, Senator Kiambu.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Now, Honorable Buyu, of course, this big story on the front page has caused quite a lot, or has elicited quite a lot of emotions, reactions, especially from even women leaders from the Nyanza region who've come out and are very vocal about what's happening. Governor Obado came out yesterday, accompanied by his family, to make a few clarifications. He says he's been subjected to medieval judgment, that he's been judged as being guilty in the media, and it appears that this is what everyone is running away with. Do you think probably that because investigations are still going on and the governor himself has said he is willing to go back and be interrogated even further? He does not deny having a relationship with Sharon or knowing her, but denies having any role in that murder. Don't you think that probably he has a right to claim that probably he's been unfairly judged now that investigations are still going on? Do you feel that probably even the headlines in the media, some of the pronouncements by your colleagues, even in public rallies, at funerals and in some other forums, that probably we've been unfair to the governor to some extent?
I think, first of all, I must say that the citizenry or the people who've been commenting are not the judge, and they're not investigators, but they are Kenyans with feelings and emotions. And what was perplexing to most people, me included, was the fact that there was so much mention about the governor having had or having been in a relationship with this lady, and the person who has been held in custody all this while is the governor's PA, who happened to be one of the last people who saw this lady while she was alive. And so what was in everybody's mind was, how come the governor is not being taken in for questioning? It is not that people are lynching him and saying that he is the culprit, but everybody was wondering that with all the mention about him, how come he's not being taken in for questioning? Mm-hmm. I think the public just wanted him to be questioned. As to whether he's taken in or as to whether he's proved that he's the culprit, that is not with the public. Yes. That is with other bodies, that relevant bodies that can do that. But people just wanted to see that if he's been mentioned and if everybody's talking about him, just take him in for questioning and find out what he knows about the murder.
But Senator, there's a very thin line between being emotive, just expressing the emotions that are very raw sometimes, and actually staying true to the law. This individual is innocent until proven guilty. He has not refused to cooperate with the authorities who are investigating this matter. No. But the fact of the matter is that the headlines, some of the public comments are actually appear to be lynching him, if I may use that word.
Well, to begin with, Fred, let me start by saying good morning to our viewers. And, you know, especially the images of Obado and his family yesterday reminds me of those days of Bill Clinton when he faced impeachment, and the whole world expected that sooner he was going to be a divorcee. But Hillary, you know, surprised or shocked the world when she chose to stay put and stand with her family. And I believe, as history now would tell us, that's probably one of the reasons why President Clinton was able to finish his presidency with the kind of you know, ratings and power that he had. And so seeing Governor Obado with his wife and family yesterday, you know, one is a sign that he's concerned. He's human. He has a family, and definitely every one of us, no matter what the circumstances, you're bound to want to protect your family, and especially this one, you know, digs and stabs deep into the core relationship with the family, because when these kind of allegations are made against somebody and then they are taken to that level, definitely your family, Fred, is bound to suffer a lot. I mean, you can imagine what they've been going through, having to see all these headlines. But then, having said that, with that point that you've finalized with, that yes, that's our law, that you are innocent until you're proved guilty in a process of law, you know, that is above board, and until then you have to be treated as so that you're innocent. And I believe that it is important to give Governor Obado the opportunity to prove his innocence, or then the accuser, for that matter, if he's accused by anyone, to prove his guilt. But let me say this.
Do you think, for example, we've accorded him that space? Because he feels that he's been subjected to medieval punishment.
I believe he has, you know, in all fairness, from my own point of view, I think we have prosecuted him before, you know, in the public court too much, before really a fair hearing has been accorded to him in any way. Because if you ask actually now almost anybody in this country, whether it's a child or whichever corner of the country they come from, you know, somehow a sense of a guilt conscience has been imposed on him, and a guilt verdict also imposed upon him in many people's minds. And so that's why I believe, you know, he's saying what he's saying. But let me just say this very quickly, Fred. You know, at the big risk of probably being misunderstood, but at the end of the day, either myself or even Mheshimiwa Rosa, Buyu, or any person in leadership, this is one of the major sacrifices and one of the, you know, psychological preparations you have to make and be ready for when you assume positions of leadership. Because, you know, everybody else is allowed to do anything they like. I mean, other fellows and women can have a million affairs. They can even go and shoot people or do whatever. But when you're a leader, you have to be ready. Actually, you know, one time I was in a conference. We were humored by a bishop, you know, who gave us a very good example of leadership. He told us, when you choose to go to leadership like this, it is like a lady wearing a skirt deciding to climb a tree. and so when you're up the tree, don't complain and tell me, why are you looking at me and saying that I'm dirty? Or I'm wearing dirty,
I want to say this.
Yes.
I'm even surprised that we are talking about Obado's lynching, public lynching. I mean, discussing that it's unfair to Obado because he's been lynched publicly. Compared to what happened to this girl, Sharon, that is nothing. That is absolutely nothing.
Do you feel it's fair because it could happen to any leader?
What do you mean about fair? There's no fair here. There's no fair to Sharon. There's no fair here, really. So everybody thinking that Obado needed to be questioned is not wrong. And first thing, I mean, given the sort of horrible, brutal murder that the girl underwent or went through, really,
it's the fact, Honorable Buyu, it's the fact that in many people's minds, we've already declared that Governor Obado is guilty of that murder, yet it's not been proven.
No, I think
that is
we've not declared that he's guilty. The people who will declare he's guilty is the court. We are saying that he's a suspect. A suspect because he was close to this girl. A suspect because his PA was the last person, one of the last people seen with this girl. So he needed to go in and be questioned. He needed to go in and be questioned.
Okay.
And this thing about family, do you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of somebody engaging in a corrupt dealing, and then after a while, sitting with these tribesmen and saying we are being targeted. I sympathize with this family because I'll speak as a woman and I'll speak as a mother. If your husband was in an affair or suspected to be in an affair that now turns out to be so public, I tell you, you're not the same. You're going through some sort of humiliation. You know, and then to drag you, this is not because he's sympathizing with his family. He's still using his family. He's dragging his family along for sympathy. To himself, to use them to cleanse himself. This is what it is. Just let me say it.
Yes.
A woman, and I sympathize with this woman, she's going through an anguish because it's gone public, your husband is having an affair, and in this affair, a lot of things are now coming out, and this girl has been murdered in such a manner, and your husband obviously is a suspect. So she's going through a lot of torment, you know, psychological torment. And then she's brought to the fore to stand next to this man and show that this man is actually a Mr. Clean. This man has a wife, and this man has children. So he couldn't have committed that murder. Excuse me. It is now using your family again and taking this woman to even a further torment.
Wow.
That's just what it is.
Wow, it is definitely a very emotive and very touchy place. But when it comes to, because this is not the only instance where we've seen governors accused of such a crime, because only a week or two ago, the governor of Garissa, Ali Korane, was also questioned in relation to an attempted murder of one of his CECs. And even then, he complained that even he had been prosecuted in as far as public opinion was concerned.
In the public opinion court. I mean, I think the point that we are making, and probably with a lot of respect to Mheshimiwa Rosa, because of course she's a parent, she's a mother, and I believe she's
a wife also who can be in this situation.
And she's a wife, so she has, you know, of course, a right to that opinion. My view on this, Fred, and I believe our view, you know, probably as men, you know, say it that way, if you like, but also as leaders, is this, that indeed I agree to the extent that, you know, once you're a suspect, then you definitely have to be questioned so that you can prove that either innocence or guilt. And it is right that then, because the governor was a suspect to that extent that he has even owned up that he knew the girl, that is okay. He can be questioned. The point we're raising is on the judgment that has been passed upon him in how this matter has been, you know, prosecuted in the public court. And I think that was just the issue, and I think we just need to be fair. Lastly, let me say this, because you know, Fred, I know you are a relatively young man. In the older days, and I believe that still happens today, there's some music that used to be played in the country music collection that was played by a lady called Dolly Parton. And
I know Dolly Parton's music.
You know her music. and one of her songs says that when it's family, you accept them because you have no choice but to. And they always put it to the test, and you pray to God to do the rest while you do your best, and so many other things that they say. You know, sometimes in family, and I'll say this to my colleague, and she will agree with me, there are decisions sometimes you take for your family and on behalf of your family and to sustain your family, that at the end of the day, Fred, I will tell you, people told outside there would not believe that sometimes you have to make those kind of concessions.
These concessions are always apparently made by women, you know?
You know, and even Mheshimiwa Rosa will tell you, you know, when those that door is closed inside there and it is you and your family. I will tell you there are decisions you have to take at some times. Major concessions you have to make.
Every family has a right to protect its own.
You know, and I believe, yeah, that's the end of that. So you would not be expecting that the lady is enjoying it at all. Neither is the governor, neither is their children or their child. No
the
one is
governor was in
enjoying
an
it.
affair, so he doesn't need to enjoy the repercussions. I mean, he doesn't need to think about them because it's a repercussion of what he did.
Much more. The point I was making is,
although it should also be noted that the main issue we're handling here is a criminal killing, the murder of Sharon Otieno.
Yeah, sure.
Whether or not the governor had an affair is really not part of the problem that we are handling here.
Well, and you know, that is to the extent to which they would have to deal with it, you know, internally as a family.
So why did the family
but probably to the extent that then he has to prove his innocence to the criminal charge.
Yes.
But when it comes to how do they deal then with the rest of the agreement, maybe you find, Mheshimiwa Rosa, yes, it is true that it is hurting, it is painful to a wife, for example, when you find that you have to contend with your husband who is having that affair. But remember that the flip side of that coin sometimes is even yourself as my wife. There are times when you also find it may not be you having an affair, but there are other issues or other matters that may arise in family where I will still have to, you know, make
as a husband to stand by you.
Major concessions and stand by you, you know, so that the family, it's not always about infidelity. It can be so many issues. The point is, you know, it is the determination, Fred, and I would be speaking this as parents, you know, for purposes even of tutoring our daughters and our sons. In our tradition, what used to happen is when you marry off your daughter, we would celebrate and drink and whatever, and when we sit as wazes, the daughter is told, here we have beer that we have been given by these people you have brought. Should we drink it or shouldn't we? You say, yes, drink it, because we accept. And then now once we drink it, we tell you, the bed you used to sleep in this house, we have now broken it. Because so that is where you belong. And so you have to protect your turf there. Yeah, by all means. And it cannot be easy. It's not an easy ride anywhere.
Because you must agree, and he's given the example of even former U.S. First Lady Hillary Clinton, that when it comes to family, you make that decision to protect your own, and it is your right as well. The same that even Governor Obado's family may have made that decision, and they accompanied the governor. Isn't it their right to do that?
It is their right. All I'm saying is, when a man or a woman in a marriage decides to go and have an affair outside that marriage, they're doing it as an individual. When things like this then happen, and it becomes public, more often than not, the woman is dragged in to be part of the cleansing ceremony for the man. More often than not.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, the women will always choose to stand by their families. But what I'm saying is, my heart goes for this woman. Because as a woman, and as a wife, and as a mother, I know that if I was to discover that my husband is in an affair, it would break me down. But even after, more than just breaking me down, when that affair now becomes public to outsiders more than just me.
When we have to discuss it on headlines for weeks.
And I have children who I'd love to protect, because obviously the children are also emotionally involved now. And then I'm dragged to the fore, so that I make this man who is in this affair look like he's a man of integrity. He has a wife, and I have to stand up for him. He has children. Now I'm trying to make him look like a responsible man, knowing very well that he was in that affair. And in my presence, he will actually come up and say that, yes, I knew that woman and we were in a romantic affair. And as a woman, the society expects me to sit and still smile because I'm the wife. My heart goes to her.
No.
I mean, it's calling and expecting so much from the woman.
Yes.
But there she is. She's a woman.
I think this is one of the cases. This is one of the
One time.
multifaceted cases that we're looking at. It is beyond murder. We're looking at a high-profile romantic affair between a governor and a university student. Now it has spiraled into a murder investigation.
Yeah.
And now I don't think we've handled such a headline since we started this show.
No, I just wanted to tell Rosa a very quick story.
Senator.
Rosa,
Senator loves stories.
One time in my own county, I was called sometimes to see how I could help a family where the wife had gone to Kenya Women Finance Trust, taken a huge loan with their family home as the collateral when the husband was out working. And they had a lot of upheavals there hidden by the wife. She never talked about it. Tried to mend it, it never got mended. And then even to the last day of having the home auction, she tried to get some women together, it never worked. And then their home was auctioned. Then one day when the husband, on a Saturday afternoon, and that is a true case, I'm called, please come and help me. This guy was my campaigner. And then in his home, auctioneers have come to evict him. The home has been sold. He does not know. And then, once I arrive there, I find that they have been thrown out, things have been, people have come, taken over. And then he's like, what is happening? Your home was auctioned. What happened? I mean, the wife took money. And you know what? At the end of the day, there was a lot of upheaval, there was fighting. But that man, even today, and I would not say his name because he's one of my people, even up to today, that man stood with his family, although amidst a lot of pain and tears.
But Senator,
and went, just a minute, went to rent a house, eventually labored again. And now he lives in one of the small homes in Kabete. And you'll be asking yourself, in an event like that one, what would a man do with his wife? The point I'm making here, Mheshimiwa, is this. That this coin keeps on flipping all the time. And there are times when you will have to be called upon under whatever circumstances
to stand by your spouse.
That you have to stand with your
family. But guess what? Yeah. Chances are that woman took that loan, mortgaged that house. Why? To make the family better. Okay. The proceeds of that was to improve the life of the family. I mean, look at that. That is why she did that.
Well, this discussion comes from this headline. Obado, Governor Okoth Obado Migori, yesterday came out accompanied by his family, his wife, one of his sons and one of his daughters, to actually make a statement to the public with regard to his alleged romantic affair with the university student Sharon Otieno, who was murdered, and the investigation is going on. And of course, the governor has already been questioned in as far as that is concerned, and he says he is willing to be questioned further by the investigative agencies in as far as that is concerned. It is a very interesting discussion now that we're looking at, because I was just looking at how, at the murder issue, but now it appears the fact that he came out with his family is probably of even a much bigger concern.
But Fred, let me just say this. I know we have to get out of this.
Yes. Right.
I just want to say that a lot of people are also lynching Sharon because she was having an affair with an older man, and because. But what I'd like to say is, as we discuss that, no human being deserves to go through what Sharon went through. It doesn't matter what you think or what sin you think she committed, but Sharon was 26. At 26, you're still finding yourself, especially in this life today, And she must have made some mistakes, like many of us do. But no person deserves to go through what she went through. And we just want to say Paule, and we sympathize with her family, and we sympathize with her loved ones. And we just want to let young people who are Sharon's age also know that there's a lot to learn from this experience. As painful as it is, we can learn a lot from it.
Yes. And of course, this continues to be the biggest discussion point since Monday last week, the death of Sharon Otieno, the 26-year-old Rongo University student whose body was found in a thicket in Homa Bay. She was 7 months pregnant at the time of her death. She's yet to be buried. The family has said they'll have to wait until investigations are done. Investigations, meanwhile, going on. The latest high-profile person to be questioned is Governor Okoth Obado, who is said to have been in a romantic relationship with Sharon. Yesterday he came out with his family, and that's the biggest discussion today. This is not something we've seen in a while in Kenya, leaders coming out with their families in such times. And
we saw the president, the former president came out with his family.
To deny...
To say, I am the president, I have one wife, I just have this number of children. Yes. You know, so
it is on rare occasions. Very rarely do we get to actually go back and get our families to come and stand with us.
Actually, I would say it is in our African and Kenyan context.
This is how it should be.
That we've not been doing it. Now we are doing it. You know, earlier on, you find that we used to believe in the one-man show concept. But now, at least, but this is how it should be. I mean, when with your family, you stand with your family. I mean, let people know that you're a
But show your family at all times, not under distress when these things are happening. Then you want to use your family.
But you find that there are times when people are specifically targeting your family,
yes,
so that they can destabilize you. And for example, like for us politicians, the first target, if people want to really get you off your feet, is to target your family. And you know, once you have no peace at home because your wife is saying this man is a blah blah and all your children,
that could apply to you as well,
then absolutely you will have no peace. And of course, I mean, that's part of gimmickry that has been used for a long time. It, like you correctly said, it would be used even against a politician like Mheshimiwa Rosa Buyu being a lady. I mean, you find people who come and plant, you know, stories against her. Remember, supposing the women representative from Laikipia was not strong enough to come out and say that this man that I'm being accused with in Kericho is really my husband, what was going to be happening? I mean, supposing that kind of expose was being done to somebody probably who is not strong enough and to be able to come out and lay the truth, you destroy her. I mean, the same thing, Mheshimiwa Rosa, can also be planted upon you, maybe by political opponents. Yes. But I'm not saying that this was happened.
The fact is that politicians and leaders are also human beings. They're fathers, husbands, and sons.
And men.
And daughters as well. And men and women as well. Well, away from even these headlines, there's a question I've been asking, and in relation to this ongoing investigation, I've been asking all my panelists, and it has to do with the history we've had with high-profile murders and whether or not they've been resolved. And the fact of the matter is that former MP for Kabete, Wanamushai, was killed in the city center. That has never been resolved. Chris Musando, IEBC ICT officer, was killed. That has never been resolved. Other people, who else? I think there are quite a number of people that have been killed in the recent past, 3, 4, 5 years. Those murders have not been resolved. How different is it this time around? Do you feel that beyond the headlines, beyond the emotions that have come out so clearly, that we could actually get to the bottom of this murder?
I think that the unresolved murders is what was also making the public get a bit excited because, or apprehensive, because the public was like, we have seen murders that are so gruesome and nothing has come of it. You see a few people being picked, and then after a few days it dies like that and nobody gets to hear the end of it. So this is what made everybody feel like, is this just going through the same tune? Is this what's going to happen? How come they're not picking the man who seems to be at the center of it all? He might not have been the murderer, he might not have committed it, but how come he's not being questioned? How come they're not trying to delve and find out his side of the story? So that is what made people so, at least for me, that is what made me so emotional about it, because I thought it's going to go the way like all the rest.
Do you see it going that way?
With the new broom that is supposed to sweep, the DCI and his team, there was a lot of hope, because just before this happened, we've seen him trying to sweep in different areas. So everybody was hopeful that if anything like this happens during his sweeping tenure, things will be resolved, you know? So when there was some lack of positive movement in terms of questioning some of the mentioned suspects, then people began to get a bit agitated. And I know I for one asked that if this broom was supposed to sweep clean, how come it's sweeping selectively, you know? So there is hope that this new team might get us to see the end of this. And we are really, really hoping that everything will be done. And I don't want to use the phrase which is always used and nothing comes out of it, that no stone will be left unturned. none of these stones have ever been turned, you know? So we're just hoping that he's a new broom and he's forecast and he's going to help us unravel this murder. You know?
Do you share in the same hope that this time around something will actually get to the bottom of this particular case?
Fred, let me first concur with what you've said earlier and what also Mheshimiwa says. Indeed, we have a very bad record of resolving murders. And you see, we only refer to the high-profile murders because there are people who are known. But that should lead us to the question then, can you then imagine how many other people, human beings, get killed, murdered, get lost, and it's not even reported because they don't have big names or big families behind them, and it never gets resolved. I mean, how many? And but then if the indicator will be even those that are high and mighty and have names and money and power behind them also get murdered and killed, and it's rubbed over and fizzles out, then that tells you that we have a big problem. We've had a big problem. I have no reservations or kind words to say because I've been a victim. I lost my own member of parliament, Muchai, and up to today it is still a mystery out there. You know, I've lost close friends in political leadership, and what I'm saying is that I have been clear here before that I have a true personal liking for the DCI. I have spoken to him, and what he reflected to me was a man who is serious on a mission. And I've seen what Haji is doing, and that duo is a duo that we have grown to admire, even me personally. And I would be saying to them directly, we have seen you doing things that amount to a serious change and shift in how things are done in this country. You've given us hope that things can be done differently when it comes to fighting corruption and following and towing the line of the law. Can you, for goodness sake, also assure Kenyans that you can't just be, somebody can not just sit somewhere and decide that they are going to eliminate you because you are a threat to them, because they don't like you, and they can get away with it, whoever they are. Can they then take it upon themselves, because it's done the world over, and resolve some of those cases that are still fresh in our minds? I mean, ask yourself, why up to today has there never been a firm word on the murder of Robert Houko? Why up to today is the whereabouts and the murder and under the circumstances in which J.M. Kariuki died? Why is it still a mystery? Why is Muchai still a mystery? And all those other Kenyans that are on record. So if this duo, as Mheshimiwa says, can say, let us show you the way we showed you here, that indeed we can restore public faith and hope, and especially in line with the Constitution that sanctifies life in law, then absolutely, I think it would be a major and great welcome.
It is the headline that continues to grip Kenya's attention, the gruesome murder of Sharon Otieno, the 26-year-old Rongo University student whose body was discovered in a thicket in Homa Bay. She was 7 months pregnant when she was killed. The investigation is going on, and of course, we have to leave it to the investigative agencies. A lot of hope from even the politicians, they say, this time round with the new DPP, Nordin Haji, and the new boss at the DCI, George Kinoti, that probably this time will get to the bottom of that matter.